All right. Oh, Victory Tuesday, playoff Victory Tuesday at that. Welcome to Midday Due Diligence. I'm Stevie J. Camber with me right here. You guys, as you come in, retweet it, share it on Facebook, wherever it is that you're at. Get it built up, and let's have a really good time today. We're going to break stuff down, but we're also going to celebrate. Be sure that you like and subscribe to Pick Six Sports. And you know what? I love when someone can come in and immediately admit that they were wrong. So good on you, whoever you are. Way to go. Good job.
No, you couldn't have asked for a better evening. It was absolutely perfect. Nothing.
Well,
we'll get to it.
Could have had a little extra to it.
Right. But you know what? If that was the worst of our problems, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it for now. Yeah. I'm okay with it here on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, come Sunday, that one thing better get corrected. But we're not going to harp on that too much. We're celebrating here. We're having a good time. So, Camber, let's start with our star up on offense and defense. Go ahead and tell me who gets your star up award on the offensive side of the ball.
How do you not give it to Dak Prescott? Yeah. I mean, I said it last week on the show with Mass. He is not built to come out and have those two performances in a row like Washington. And he may not be looking on social media or everything, but he hears the whispers. He hears what was going on. And I had the utmost in confidence that he was just going to come out and, I mean, nearly perfect. I can't really criticize him on anything.
Yeah, no, not at all. And, Dak is the obvious answer. Dak's the one I'm going with as well. I mean, 5 total touchdowns, 330 total yards. But at the end of the day, I mean, you could credit up and down the roster. I mean, you had CeeDee Lamb came out and they were trying to get Lamb going early. It didn't happen on that first drive. But you had T.Y. Hilton catch a couple of passes. You had Michael Gallup get involved a little bit. And so I think that those guys getting it going really helped Dak. In addition, probably the best game that this offensive line has had since Terrence Steele went down.
Oh, absolutely agree. Tyler Smith had a phenomenal game. At first I was a bit worried when Peters went down, but sliding him back out and McGovern coming in, that was seamless for them.
And it did raise the question in my mind about whether or not perhaps they should have saved Jason Peters just in that reserve role, put him back in a swing tackle spot. He's your depth. But I think that they wanted to go in with, you know what, let's just put all the talent we have out there. And I understand that. I get that. Now, obviously, it makes your offensive line pretty paper thin, with some guys like, a Tyron Smith at right tackle, always going to be cautious about his health. And, Zach Martin's not a spring chicken, even though he played like one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was incredible. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Tyron here in a bit because I went back and watched the game and watched the offense with the sole purpose of just keeping my eyes on Tyron Smith the whole time, just to see really what you're getting right there in that spot at right tackle. But, yeah, outside of that, in pass protection, I thought it was their best game. We knew it was going to be tough to run the ball against Tampa Bay. But I thought Kellen Moore did a phenomenal job of balance, and not just for the sake of balance. Your balance comes from keeping the defense off balance. That's the point. It's not just, 23 run, 23 pass. That's not the point of a balanced offensive attack. Your balance is determined by what keeps the defense off balance. And so he did a fantastic job of that. And I know a lot of people are picking 8 and 9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that defense was healthy, all right? By all means, they're missing one key player, Shaquille Barrett, who's been on the IR for a while now. But outside of that, they had all the pieces.
All of their corners were back. Their entire secondary was back.
Right, and that wasn't necessarily expected going into the game.
Right.
You get Vita Vea back, who, beginning of the game looked like Vita Vea was going to be a real problem, and then you didn't hear from him again the entirety of the ball game. So, they did a great job with him. Akeem Hicks,
Akeem
I
Hicks,
thought
yeah.
probably played the best out of their defensive linemen. But outside of that, I mean, this offensive line, to me, had their best game easily since Terrence Steele had gone down.
Yeah, completely agree. And Biotish being back was
Massive.
to have him there in the center and calling that line, I think was huge.
So on the defenses, I mean, we're both going with Dak. I mean,
Right.
I just wanted to credit some other guys because the obvious answer was Dak. But what about on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer would be Micah Parsons, but no one should be surprised as to who I'm going to say my defensive player was. And that was my man, Mr. Leighton Vander Esch.
There you go.
Him being back there in that role was so instrumental for that defense. He was playing the pole in cover 2. That side to side that he could run, it just, his tackling was strong. It was just flawless having him back and having that presence back on the field.
And you know what? I kind of, same thing. I want to credit other guys. You could go Micah Parsons, who was so disruptive the whole game. But man, Izzy Mukuamu, there was this idea that they had, you got Xavier Rhodes in the game, but you also had Deron Bland playing more of the outside. And when they moved Bland outside, you're kind of left going, I don't disagree. I like the move. I'm okay with Bland there. Who's playing the slot? What happens to that? And then Mukuamu, it's funny because outside corner, safety, we're trying him, and he has just been a hard hat, come to work, boss tell me what to do, I'll go do it type of guy. I mean, just a yeoman in his approach. And they said, hey, how about playing slot corner? And I guarantee you his answer was not, well, I've never done it before, coach. I mean, that's not really my, I got this long frame. What? No, his answer was likely, let's do it. Let's go. Let's roll. And he had a number of pass breakups. I thought that he played a vital part in taking away the middle of the field from Tom Brady and company, much like Leighton Vander Esch did. I mean, there were times we saw Leighton Vander Esch playing like a deep safety.
Right.
I mean, almost off the screen type of stuff. Yeah. So, but I was really impressed with Izzy Mukuamu, and I know Tampa Bay has their struggles. It's going to be a different type of ball game against San Francisco, but at the end of the day, coming away from that game, you have to feel a lot better about what your second corner was able to do, and then the job that Mukuamu did filling in the slot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Hankins, it's so nice to have that big defensive tackle in the middle that was disruptive. Yeah, right there. Exactly. It was absolutely amazing. If I did have to give a star down, I'm going to need Diggs not to play so soft next week.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, these big body guys. No, I saw him duck Russell Gage.
Right.
And that's not a dude who is physically imposing. That's not a big body wide receiver. I saw him duck Russell, like just no interest. I'm with you. Trayvon Diggs is I remember back in Cincinnati, that's how they closed the game out. Is Trayvon Diggs coming downhill, screaming downhill, and putting a pop on, I think, Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins, one of those receivers. But you're going to need that back against San Francisco. You can say the same thing about Anthony Barr. There's times when he puts the whole body, the whole frame into it, and then there's other times when it's just Olay. I mean, I don't know what's up with that guy. He's very up and down. But when you go up against a physical team like the San Francisco 49ers, Diggs is going to have to tackle and finish. Barr is going to have to tackle and finish.
Right, right.
That was a great point to bring up. I mean, I know we're trying to keep it positive, but also, job's not finished. There's still places to critique.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get to analyzing Tyron Smith. Because after Terrence Steele went down, I think that we've noticed a large drop off in the run game and maybe some discomfort on Tyron's part, maybe some discomfort on Dak's part as well. But I went back and watched, and by the way, the run game, even though it wasn't just mind blowing, they still put up, I think, 126 rushing yards. Like I said, stuck to it and did so in a way that was to keep Tampa Bay off balance. I thought it was a masterful game called by Kellen Moore.
Oh, absolutely. Him and Dan Quinn. I mean,
oh yeah,
that was magic on both of their sides.
And as far as Tyron goes, it's I think we're in a situation where he's getting more comfortable there. He doesn't have the lower body strength, which is understandable considering what he's just come back from. The upper body strength is undoubtedly there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, once the paws were on you, that it's a wrap. That was it. No one went anywhere. Okay, there were some guys who were able to put a move on him. He did end up on his back whenever he was out leveraged a couple of times. It wasn't a perfect game from Tyron Smith in terms of it just being pretty, but he didn't give up pressures to Dak Prescott. You know, he was there in the run game. A little, maybe not quite the same guy on the move,
right,
as he once was, but a number of times was able to get to the second level, put a block on maybe Devin White or, you know, one of those linebackers. All in all, it was a good performance. I mean, any time that they matched Joe Shoyinka up on him, I'm trying. But
yeah, no, it's not an easy name. And in anybody's defense, he didn't add that until this year.
Yeah.
Or last year, yeah. Because he was just Joe Tryon when he was at the University of Washington.
So what I saw there was really nothing out of Joe Tryon in his pass rush attempts against Tyron Smith. There was a time or two where he was, you know, they moved him around or something where he was able to make a play in the backfield on a run play. But outside of that, Tyron Smith, I was very encouraged by this game. Now, you go up against a San Francisco team, and we'll see what that looks like. Obviously, they're a lot more physical. I mean, they are up front is where they eat, you know, so you're going to need Tyron to be his best. But I was really happy with what I saw from Tyron Smith. And at the end of the day, I think that he's going to be pretty much the key to this offensive line because A, he needs to hold up, and then B, he's got to continue progressing at that right tackle spot if Dallas wants to get back to where they were pre-Terrence Steele injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it, that it's more so him getting used to that motion, you know, going it's like learning a dance one direction and now you've got to learn it backwards. And then I'm sure like the communication between him and Zach Martin, that they're learning to flow together and everything with that. So, but yeah, absolutely. That side scares me, especially facing Christian McCaffrey in this situation next week. So,
well, and you mentioned the camaraderie, the cohesiveness with him and Martin. There were a couple of plays where you see them either doubling or picking up for one another. It looks like that aspect of it is getting much, much better. And most of all, I was just very happy to see the strength of Tyron Smith. Like I said, maybe not so much in the lower body. There were a couple of times where, you know, he kind of got buckled and ended up on his back. But the upper body strength is still that next level. You know, no one's got the hands, no one's got the clamps that Tyron Smith does. And I think right now that's what you're getting. And as he continues on, you know, keeps pedaling on that bike at right tackle, he'll get a little bit better. There's not many guys in the NFL at all, not that I'm anybody, but that I believe could play both sides and get acclimated to the opposite side. I don't really believe in swing tackle. I believe only special guys can do it, and hardly anybody is a special guy, but Tyron Smith is. And so by the time you get to San Francisco on Sunday night, hopefully he's anchored that a little bit better. He's gotten progressively better. This was by far his best game at right tackle. So the other thing, let's see, what else I have it? Offensive line protection, we've kind of touched on that. Martin, you saw Tyron, you saw Biadasz. Really, really happy with the left side of that line.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you talk about Connor McGovern, who's not going to get talked about a whole lot, and you got to say something positive about his attitude, his approach to this whole thing. They've wanted to implement him since the day he was drafted to this team. They've wanted him involved in some way, shape, or form. And finally, he gets a start at left guard, but then everything's kind of up in the air. They're trying to figure out their tackle situations. And he ends up coming out of the lineup, going into the lineup, moving to center while Biadasz is out. Then you're back out of the lineup again, and then there's an injury, so you're back in the lineup again. It's just a lot of, emotional tug and pull for, a guy to just get yanked around left and right, and he's handled it like a pro. And, maybe he's not a world beater, maybe he's not a Pro Bowl caliber type player, but he's a pro. He's got a good mentality, and I like his approach to the game. So I want to give a little nod of the cap to Connor McGovern. And then Tyler Smith, best game he's played all year and coming at the absolute right time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know a lot of us doubted it, that first round pick being used on him.
Yeah.
It came in handy. It came in very handy last night, and hope that continues on Sunday.
Yeah, without a doubt. I hope it continues on Sunday. The next thing I have in my notes is Schultz results. And another guy, we're saying that Tyler Smith, his best game of the year. Tyron Smith, his best game of the year at right tackle. Dak, his best game of the year. Dalton Schultz, his best game of the year.
I saw him blocking.
Catching.
Yeah.
He had struggled with blocking in space, especially, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also look at he'd had a couple of drops, some tough time holding on the ball, and then makes this brilliant catch on the sideline with Devin White on his back, reaching through. He bobbles the ball, regains possession, gets the foot down, gets the knee down. And, I really like the results from Schultz this past game, and we give him a hard time. There's nothing, now I'm kind of blessed the guy's heart at this point, because there's nothing he can do to convince us that we should pay him a big contract to stick around for 4 or 5 more years. But we would sure greatly appreciate if you made yourself some money here over the next month.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Undoubtedly his best game. Henry was texting me, because Henry's very much a Schultz guy, and he was like, say his name, and I was like, Mr. and Mrs. Schultz's son did really well on that play. But yeah, no, you couldn't have asked for much more out of him. And all the tight ends, I think, were playing really well last night. Ferg had some great blocks. Schultz did that one that did allow was it a CD touchdown that he threw that block?
I just posted that clip from the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. And if you go back and look at it, once he clears and CeeDee Lamb starts going towards the goal line, towards the pylon, just in that wide open space, the ball is just coming out of Dak's hands. I mean, it's not even in the air. Dak is in his motion, and Schultz has a hand to, he already knows what it is. He's got a finger up. He's calling touchdown, and Lamb hasn't even caught the ball yet. He's like, I know what's happening. I know where this is going. And again, that's a team with conviction. That's a team that knows this is going to work. We believe in this. And Kellen, Dak, the play design, it's not your ball, but you're going to go do your job anyway and be excited for the guy next to you. That is an incredible play. That's an incredible team moment when the ball's in midair and Dalton Schultz is like, touchdown, baby, let's get it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, to have that kind of confidence rolling onto the field, and I think they all felt it. What a 180 from last year going into the Niners, where Mike McCarthy's saying this team's nervous, to having that winner championship mentality to just roll in. And I mean, it was like almost pointing at the to the outfield, like calling his shot.
Yeah, and that was something else. Pre-game, he said, "We're good. We are ready for this."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes Mike McCarthy will, like you said, he let us know that they were nervous last year. And I was like, dude, even if you were, don't tell anybody.
Right.
Like, keep that to yourself. So he can be a little bit forward, wear some stuff on his sleeve from time to time. And when he said we're ready, we're prepared, we feel good, I felt a sense of relief in that from Mike McCarthy. The first couple of drives, you're kind of like, slow start again, but the defense went out and did their job, and that's what we're going to talk about next.
But both those defenses came out lights out.
Yeah, both of them came out ready to play. I mean, they made it. It wasn't like Dallas was out there screwing up and shooting themselves in the foot. But Tampa Bay, like we said, with the exception of one guy, they were healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Full secondary. You got good linebackers. Your defensive line was all there, and so I really was impressed with the way that not only did the defense come out ready to play, but offensively they kicked it into gear. And once they got it going, they did not stop until victory formation.
Yeah.
So one thing, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And the very first thing that I've got down, Camber, is they made Tom Brady uncomfortable.
And we were talking all week that was the key to the game. Get Tom uncomfortable, get him out of his element, take the middle of the field away from him, and get some of those grass stains on his back. And he crumbles.
And people don't like to accept that. They just think Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, there's no flaw in his game. If you can get him to stepping around, and getting not the head, like if his eyes are brilliant. But if you get that body twisting and turning, then that's whenever he starts having a little bit of trouble. And I don't think it took too long for him to start thinking about Micah Parsons pre-snap. I mean, before, you identify him and you go, man, how much do I really trust Donovan Smith over there?
Mm-hmm.
You see him line up in the A gap and you're thinking, my center hasn't played all year. He's got a bum wheel. And he's about to go up against this guy. I'm going to have to be conscious of that. But when you're conscious of that, you're not playing with the same free-flowing style, reading the secondary, reading those linebackers in coverage as you would if you're not thinking about a Micah Parsons, running right at you. And we saw tip balls, deflections. We saw him get hits on Brady. We saw him draw a hold call. I mean, there's probably going to be people look at the stat box and go, 3 tackles. Like, he killed the game. He ruined the game for Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah. Because, you had that constant buzz with him, so he's got Micah, in his head here. And then you had Watkins coming at him. Hankins was coming at him. He was getting it from all directions, which, was absolutely perfect.
And you know what? I want to tip the cap to whoever. I don't know who makes the final call on this. I assume Dan Quinn. But, Neville Gallimore was a 3rd-round pick. And then Quentin Bohanna was a guy who got a little preseason hype, played well in spurts, had some good moments. But simply, Watkins and Chauncey Golston are playing better right now.
Yeah.
And you can't carry everybody on the active roster. So we saw Golston get in the mix, kind of ruin some things. He may not have had, the tackles or anything of that nature, but he's blowing things up, making life easier on Leighton Vander Esch. On those safeties who come down around the box, even though they played a lot of cover 2. But I was really, really happy with the way these defensive tackles played. We saw Oso Digizua blow things up.
You did.
It was a really good performance from this defensive line.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't lie, when I saw the inactive list, I got a little nervous, seeing Neville on there and Bohanna and Nashon Wright. I was like, what have they seen this week in practice? Out of Rhodes. Are they going to play Izzy into there? What does Dan Quinn got going on? Because to me, it was like, okay, this is a big roll of the dice that we're going to mix up this many different things. But clearly it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Nashon Wright, and again, that takes us back to the decision to move Bland inside or outside, excuse me, to move Bland outside and to have Israel Mukwamu in the slot. And also, you got a little bit of help from Xavier Rhodes. Another guy that, look, I'm glad you're here. You give us some depth, and me and Nix talk all the time about adequate NFL depth. And you look at kind of some of the guys they brought in, Hankins, T.Y. Hilton. You also look at Barr, who's been a good player, not great by any means, but outside of some tackling issues, some range issues, he's pretty good from A to C gap. But these guys that they brought in, Fowler, they've been able to contribute, and that's what you're looking for. And so, Xavier Rhodes, glad you're here. He's going to have to pick the tackling up a little bit as well.
Absolutely.
But he also brings some veteran presence to a very young defensive cornerback room outside of Diggs. Even Diggs, this is year 3, and that's the veteran in your room until you brought in Rhodes. And so glad to have him aboard.
It is clear that he can't run. He's not really great with running, that he's not as fast as he was. But the veteran role is really helping.
I think, was it Evans had the drop on the back end that could have been a touchdown, and I know Rhodes was covering him.
And it was because you saw Rhodes turn his head and look for the safety. Where's my help coming in? And it wasn't there, but you still got to go and get him.
Yeah, you see 3-4 steps on the guy, and all in all, he's going to help when they can play more zone. Just that veteran savvy. He's been a Pro Bowler, he's been All Pro. When they're able to play more zone instead of some press man, like they were doing a little bit more of that, and that was the whole idea in the cover 2. Let's get up in their face, play some cover 2 on the back end. That disrupts Tom Brady. Drop that middle linebacker, like we were talking about, LVE. They did a great job of taking away what Brady likes. But future games, when you're playing more of maybe a cover 3 or a cover 1, what Dallas traditionally likes to play, I think that Xavier Rhodes can help you in that, instead of having to turn and run with a guy like Mike Evans, who's in his prime. Maybe not the fastest guy on the field, but he's still, a great deep threat each and every year. And you're asking him to run with a 20-something rather than, Julio Jones, who got one. Julio Jones got one. But at the end of the day, it's good that they've added these players for the sake of depth and having options, because with this cornerback 2 spot, giving yourself options may be what saves your season.
Oh yeah.
What I have next on the notes here: made Brady uncomfortable. Israel Mukwamu, unsung hero of the game. We've touched on Izzy. Had a phenomenal game. I'm interested to see what happens going into San Francisco, if they mix things up personnel-wise. Obviously, guys will have a different assignment based on the opponent you're playing and what you think is most effective. But I don't know how you look at how Izzy played and take that guy off the field. You just cannot take that guy off the field. He was too productive. The length, obviously, was a big thing.
And I
And
think you're gonna need him, especially,
yeah,
whatever plan they need to focus on Kittle and what you do to take Kittle out of the game. And I think it's gonna be a combination of Izzy, of Leighton, of Donovan Wilson.
here's the thing about this though. He played
Yeah,
outside.
yeah,
He
he was
played
outside,
corner
not slot.
outside. Last night he's playing in the slot. We hadn't heard anything about Israel Mukwamu. I mean, the safety sometimes would come down and play in the slot. They moved him to safety, so that might have been the case some. But that's the most we've seen Israel Mukwamu play in the slot all season. We've seen him play down on the line a little bit, a little box safety. But all in all, man, I thought that he had just a really, really phenomenal game. Yeah, he might have got away with
I
the
was going to say, you
here
know
and there.
what? There was a lot of things not called last night. There were some
Sure.
surprising ones. I mean, we finally saw a hold on Micah Parsons.
What's ironic about
And
that is it doesn't even like it's not an accepted penalty even.
right, exactly, yeah. And then we actually saw roughing the passer on Dak. But there was a lot. You know what? And I can't remember where I heard it this past week. Or yesterday, they talked a lot about how the refs in the playoffs so far are letting a lot of this stuff slide, that they aren't calling as many things than they had been in the regular season. So, yeah, I
See,
did miss tackles, soft tackles, didn't finish complete tackles. I mean,
yeah.
I literally, and I love you, Trayvon, but I wanted to send him a Tackling for Dummies book this morning, going, dude, you are not completing the entire thing.
And again, that concerns me because now you're about to go up against the most physical team in all of football, the most
Yeah, that's
physical
not,
football team in the world.
yeah, that's not going to work with Debo. It's not going to work with Ayuk.
Kittle.
You just,
I mean,
yeah,
if you end up in
yeah,
that position.
yeah.
So that, and I think I only had one more thing in my notes that I wanted to bring to the table. And this is something I mentioned in a space earlier in the week. I think it was on Wednesday. When draft season comes around, guys, you're going to hear a lot of talk about positional value. You're going to hear like, yeah, we need a defensive tackle, but the value's not there. Off ball, middle linebacker, but the value's not really good. Center, maybe, but the value's not great. You can get that in the, late second or, day 3, whatever the case may be. But how much did you miss Tyler Biadasz, Jonathan Hankins, and Leighton Vander Esch while they were gone? You missed them a lot.
A lot.
I think sometimes during draft season, we take these positional value conversations, and instead of saying, here's the difference, here's the positional value from your let's say like wide receiver versus a defensive tackle. Wide receiver has more positional value, but sometimes guys will make it seem like it's by this much, it's a world's different, and it's really not. All right, the positional value may be greater for a wide receiver, but don't take away from the positional value of a center, a defensive tackle, a Mike linebacker, because quarterbacks like to use the middle of the field. They do. Mm-hmm. So you need those guys who are disruptive. You saw Hankins get a sack. LVE played maybe his best game of the year. There we go again. Everybody played their best game of the year.
Right.
But outside of that, Tyler Biadasz was really good. When you're solid up the middle.
Malik Hooker,
that's another example. So I wanted to stress the importance of players up the middle of the field, that when draft time comes around, you're going to hear guys say, man, it's just not good value. It was pretty good value in the actual NFL playoff game last night. So I think it'll be pretty good value whenever you pick these guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the difference that Hankins made when he joined this team, the fact that you do have Osa and Golston playing better in the center, it's a trickle effect. I mean, I truly believe, getting someone there in the middle of that defensive line, that, Vander Esch has benefited from it. His game has gotten so much better. He's, now he's not getting a lot, some of the, you've got a wall in front of you, And it's so much easier to be the second line of defense when that wall's right there doing something for you. So.
Yeah, or you're one gapping and this side is wide open. Your job is to fill that other gap on the other side. And, it's easy because the defensive tackle allows you to think less, play faster, think less,
right.
play faster. It's almost like how fullbacks used to be in the NFL when they would lead block. Emmett used to say, I love Moose. I love Daryl Johnston. I owe him my whole career because I never had to think. I just got to run. I just got to go. Of course, the offensive line had a lot to do with that too. But just coming through those gaps and then, oh, hey, there's the linebacker crash. I just got to pick which way to go, and I'm off running. It's the same but opposite idea on the defensive side of the ball. That defensive tackle holds that center, holds that guard, and you just got to fill the space that's left where that running back is likely going, and there you go. Suddenly, 1 yard gain, you're to 2nd and 9, and just at the end of the day, this team did an outstanding job right up the gut. As a matter of fact, really tackling is the only thing defensively that I thought you got to clean that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did really well on penalties. I mean, we had the Schultz penalty on the holding. And do we have anything else?
Surely.
Maybe.
Can anyone think of another penalty?
We had a delay of game.
We did get a delay of game.
A delay of game.
And but that might be it.
Yeah. It was. And yeah, of course, that things weren't called that could have been, but.
They didn't get a whole lot of penalties either. I mean, they're letting them play.
Yeah.
And,
which I'm all for.
We get into San Francisco, and we'll get to, obviously very happy about this win, but you get to San Francisco, you might want them to call it a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
You might want them to call it a little bit different than they did in this Tampa Bay game. Tampa can get physical on the defensive side of the ball. They're not really a physical team on offense right now. I mean, in that your quarterback's 45, it's hard to really establish yourself when you A, don't run the ball at all, and then B, the guy who you're leaving the ball in his hands with is 45 years old. It's hard to have a physical identity. Mm-hmm. But on the defensive side of the ball, Tampa Bay's pretty physical, and Dallas matched them. And a lot of it has to do with this guy.
Yeah,
Tyler Smith.
Absolutely.
And I saw someone, I don't remember who it was, but they said they drafted Tyler Smith for San Francisco type ball games. And I thought that was a great point. That's exactly what he's here for.
Yeah, Brian Broaddus was talking, and I can't remember who he was talking to. It was someone on the radio yesterday, and said that, that there's been multiple times that someone, a divisional rival will have drafted a big defensive tackle or something, and the next year will specifically draft a player to be able to match what's been drafted on another team in that way.
Well, a great example of that. You're absolutely right. And a great example of that is, after Dallas built Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, and Zach Martin, after they built that offensive line, what did you see? Suddenly you see Washington did nothing but draft defensive linemen.
Right.
So for the foreseeable future, that's all they did. That's all they drafted. You kind of saw Philadelphia do a little bit of the same thing. You saw the Giants. The Giants are always a defensive draft heavy type team, but we've seen them do that. It's a counter league, and I get that. I understand that, but I also think sometimes teams do themselves a disservice by paying a little too much attention to what someone else is doing. But for the Dallas Cowboys in this instance, you're in the NFL, and if you need to get more physical in the NFL, you do that. You address that.
It's a good thing.
It's a tough league. This isn't like the NBA where you can go, all right, well, this is a flashy point guard. I really like him. No, this is a league where you really, really, oh, this is a great point.
Yeah, I just saw it too. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Point made right there.
Yep.
So, but Tyler Smith, it kind of fit. It kind of made sense. We didn't love the fact that he led college football in penalties. We didn't love the fact that his technique was kind of a mess. The base was
or that he even came from Tulsa,
Yeah, small school, kind of out of the Cowboys, out of the ordinary for the Dallas Cowboys. But at the end of the day, you needed a tackle, you needed a lineman, so to speak, and you needed to get more physical. And his traits are off the charts. I mean, you can say what you want about the the penalties, about the technique, about the hand placement, things like that. The traits were off the charts, and he's a young guy, so he's going to hit a stride early. He's going to be productive for a long time. They're thinking he can be a Tyron Smith type player. And right now, as of last night, he's been every part of all that you could possibly hope for.
Yeah, in fact, I think, one of the rare few things that Buck and Aikman actually talked positive about us, they actually mentioned, they were like, he could be a future Hall of Famer the way he's coming about. So, and I do have to say, his suit game, those suits that he wears to the stadium.
Suit game.
Dude has got it.
I like it.
He's got some style, and I like it. Well, a big old guy like that.
Absolutely. I mean, he ain't Dak with the suit game.
No, Dak was looking so smooth yesterday.
I
was like, throw out the W now when I saw him in that suit.
Absolutely. If there was a guy who, let's talk about San Francisco for a little bit. If there was a guy who you're looking at thinking, okay, I really think that perhaps, Dak Prescott's obviously going to be important, CeeDee Lamb, but who's someone who might be a little bit of an X factor for you in the San Francisco game? A guy who, at the end of the day, we're saying, you know what, this is a guy deserving of a star up nomination.
I'm going to have to go with one of our tight ends, and it's going to be Dalton Schultz, going up against Fred Warner. We're going to need a huge game out of him in that situation.
See, I was thinking tight end as well, but I was thinking, maybe this is a game where you can get a little bit of redemption from Peyton Hendershot. Maybe this is the type of game that you drafted Sam Williams for. I mean, you kind of think about what we've been talking about with the physicality, and let's face it, both of those guys a little hot-headed. Both of those guys might get, come on, reel it in, dial it back, man. You got to calm down. You can't go out there and have dumb penalties. You can't have these, explosive moments where, you're getting a personal foul penalty. But at the same time, bring me that energy to San Francisco.
Right.
Bring me that little bit of chippiness to the San Francisco 49ers. You're both rookies. You got a long career ahead of you. Don't do anything that puts us in a bad position, but, maybe be that pesteris punk. Maybe give someone a little bit of an extra shove and let them know that, hey, we're not backing down. And I think Hendershot and Sam Williams are both that type of guy.
Yeah. And one thing that I did notice in watching the Seattle-San Francisco game, the first half when it was really a game, those Seattle linebackers were causing havoc. And I think that could be one of the keys to, controlling the game with San Francisco, is that the linebackers have got to take away that from them.
What Dallas is going to have to do against San Francisco is not let these guys run free. If you watch, I said this, I'm not trying to take anything away from Brock Purdy. He's playing extremely well. He's playing a great game. People are, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. Man, that's outstanding. There's no way to shake it. That's outstanding. But
it's not all the system. I mean, the kid has stepped up.
Yeah, he's executing. And, was the system different with Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance? Not really. they're running what they want to run, what they like to run. But at the same time, his 3 touchdowns came on, a catch behind the line of scrimmage by McCaffrey, dump off screen to McCaffrey, and then just takes off running. He finds Deebo Samuel with no one within 8 yards of him, 7 yards up the field, and Deebo runs the other 70. It's not a negative on Brock Purdy, but it's more a testament to the talent that team has and what they're able to do when the ball is in the hands of Christian McCaffrey, of Brandon Ayuk, of Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. They've got as good of playmakers as you'll find across the entirety of the NFL, and you've got to find a way to create some tight windows for Brock Purdy to throw to. You want to be a dog in the NFL, Brock Purdy? You want to be that dude in the NFL? We're going to make you hit more than just a screen there, a wide open, 7-yard throw there where your guy can take off running. Force him to make tight window throws, and that may mean a lot of rush 4, drop 7 types of situations. So we'll see what comes of that. But I think that's how you've got to beat San Francisco. If your front can limit their run game, and then you can rush 4, drop 7. Kind of the same, a lot of people feel this was the ingredients to beat the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, then I think that you can finally put Brock Purdy in a position that he's not comfortable in being in. Yeah, I'm with you. As far as offensively for the Dallas Cowboys, this is always going to be key. And I think we also see it with the backs a lot too. Pollard yesterday was lined up all over the field. So I think keeping Lamb and Pollard motion, keep those defensive eyes just roaming all over the place. See if you can't get them in the wrong spot, lined up a little bit off their technique, stretch them out, and then maybe you can run up the gut a little bit. Those types of things. That's a good point in keeping Lamb on the move pre-snap. Camber, so tell me, on the offensive side of the ball against San Francisco, and then we'll do our predictions. I got to get back to work. I actually do have a job, despite what I look like. On the
that's why you're on the radio.
Yeah, there you go. Face for radio. But which of these wide receivers step up to you outside of CeeDee Lamb? I think we saw both Gallup. You saw T.Y. early. You saw Gallup a little bit in there. And I know that's pretty much what your options are limited to. But which one is more likely to have a bigger game against San Francisco?
Well, okay. So looking at Charvarius Ward and Lenoir, and kudos to Michael Gallup. We saw big flashes of Michael Gallup of what we saw, but I think I really like the route running of T.Y. Hilton against one of these two guys. So I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton.
I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton too because of the separation issue.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about how Tampa Bay was finally healthy, but Murphy Bunting, even though he's starting, is not a great player,
right?
By any stretch of the imagination. Gallup was able to get a little separation on him, catch a few balls, fantastic. But again, I just go back to how much San Francisco wants to get up in your grill. They want to invade your space. And that hasn't been Michael Gallup's strong suit since coming back this season. So I'm with you. I'm going T.Y. Hilton as well there. Right the opposite, and then we'll get predictions in. Which defensive back against San Francisco? We know it's probably going to be more important on the defensive front, getting to the passer, your pass rush. Stopping the run is going to be a lot more important. But which defensive back outside of your safety room And I'm going to take Bland out as well, because I think he's pretty much established himself as your second best corner. But which of these other corners is going to step up in a similar way that Israel Mukwamu did?
Well, who's going to be active? First of all, I mean, we're going to have a great game out of Diggs, but I'm going to have to see that out of Rhodes also in this situation. And not knowing, if Nahshon Wright's even going to be on the field at this point, considering how things went last night.
I'm interested to see what the final consensus on Rhodes ends up being. We talked about how he nearly gave up the touchdown to Evans, but the totality, the body of work, how many snaps did he play? How did he look in coverage? Tackling wasn't great. But I'm going to go back to Izzy Mukwamu again in this game for a couple of reasons. One, man, I was so proud of this dude because at the beginning of the season, I was so concerned about his tackling ability. That's what kept him off the roster last year, and the active roster last year was just the inability to tackle, the unwillingness to tackle. And I thought, man, how often does that change once you get to the NFL? That's something you've got to fix in college. But he's come a really, really long way as a good quality tackler. And that's what you're going to need. That length has been vital.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that
because they're going to go vertical when they can.
They are, and they're gonna have their crossers. They're gonna have Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, and they're gonna get McCaffrey in on those crossers as well. Dallas hasn't been strong there, and I thought Mukwamu did a great job of being a part of limiting that part of the game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're gonna need a real repeat performance from Israel Mukwamu.
Yeah. I do have to shout out to Rhodes only being on the team, 10 days?
Yeah.
And able to come in and grasp everything like he has and be a vital part of that secondary that he was.
All right, guys, get your predictions in. Cowboys versus 49ers, divisional round, a trip to the NFC Championship on the line. And you know what? Dallas has the potential to play a home game.
Yeah. Go Giants.
Yeah, go Julian. Yeah, go Daniel Jones, I guess. Yeah. But get those predictions in. Camber, what's yours?
This is going to be a very physical game. This is neither one of these defenses, I think, are going to give up a lot of points. And I'm going to say 20-17 Cowboys.
20-17.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 23-21. 23-21 Dallas.
So we're not going to be breathing easy next Sunday like we were yesterday.
There's no way that this game ends up like the Tampa game. You're not going to end up 24-0. Yeah. I can't see it. And if we do, I can come up with ways to contain my excitement against Tampa Bay. I can tone that. I wouldn't be able to against San Francisco. I would be elated. I would be insufferable. Right.
Yeah. I would be 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care who you are.
There you go, guys. That's going to do it for your midday due diligence. I got to get back to the job site. Be sure that you like and subscribe the page. Appreciate you guys checking in. It has been wonderful hanging out with you. Hit Camber up on Twitter, @2_MuchCamber. I'm StevieJPTX. It's been your midday due diligence. Check out our other shows, of course. Camber, Massey. Camber, tell them where they can find you guys.
Hey, we'll be on Thursday. Midday with Cam and Mass.
There you go. Also, of course, Midday Show. You also got the Freestyle Friday show. Enjoy the spaces, and then jump in with the guys as they have more Pick Six Sports shows for you. It's going to do it. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will see you around.